This season of Truly Independent is supported by the Help Them See Foundation. Help Them See is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting feature films that inspire faith, hope, and connection. By partnering with filmmakers, the Help Them See Foundation brings meaningful stories to life and shares them with audiences worldwide, making a lasting cultural impact through the power of cinema. Learn more and discover how you can be part of the movement by visiting helpthemseefoundation.org. Welcome to Season 3 of Truly Independent. I'm Garrett Batty alongside my co-host Darren Smith. Each week, we'll go in-depth with guests, industry experts, and we'll even share our own experiences, all with the goal of demystifying the independent film process. This season, it's all about the script, from the first spark of an idea to a polished final draft, breaking it down for scheduling, budgeting, and ultimately shooting. We'll walk through every step it takes to get from page to production. Welcome to Truly Independent.
How are you?
Darren, I'm good. I see you are at a different location again. It's nice to see you, though. How are you doing?
I am great. I am in another place and another country and another continent.
We're going to change the name to the Where in the World is Darren Smith Diego
Yes,
for the podcast.
it's great. I'm in Portugal right now with my wife. We are vacationing. She was here for a conference, and I came a few days after. And we have been traveling with her sister and her husband as well. So there's 4 of us, and we're doing Portugal together. So it's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, thank you then for making some time on your vacation, and thank April um, for loaning you out for a little bit of time. I'm excited about today's episode because I have one of my best friends on with us. I want to introduce him, Jeremy Prusso. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here.
Yeah. This is where we should put the applause sound effect in, because Jeremy is much deserving of applause. Such a good dude, Jeremy. We're so excited to be able to chat with you. You are a director of photography, a cinematographer. Which do you prefer? Is there like a nomenclature that is like, do not call me that, or are they both interchangeable?
I think they're interchangeable. I think I do like cinematographer a little bit better because I don't know. I just like that idea of like the whole thing. Director of photography. I don't know. Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know if there's really one that's better than the other, but
well, give us a little bit of a bio of you, if you wouldn't mind. So the listener
on your IMDb, Jeremy, just to
here we
throw a
go.
plug out, on your IMDb, it's listed as cinematographer, and there are 31 credits. Just to kind of go over what we're going to be talking about.
Is that true?
You got 31 cinematographer credits on, and that's not just like episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. Those like full seasons, feature films and all sorts of Hallmark movies and several Sundance hits and independent hits, and it's pretty impressive, man. I don't know if you've looked at that in a while.
And Garrett Batty hits.
Yeah, a lot of those early on.
Those are tucked in there early on. Yeah. So we got a lot to. Well, we're gonna dive into a little bit of that cinematography or your resume, but it's great to have you on here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. My bio, I guess, is I got married and spent about the first 10 years of my 8 years of my married life as a carpenter. My family had a construction business in California, and my wife and I went out to stay. We were in college, went out to work for a summer, and ended up staying out there doing construction for like 8 years. And I was pretty unhappy. I didn't like it. I heard my dad's voice a lot in my head. My dad didn't like his job, but did it his whole life. And I started hearing that in myself. And my wife was like, let's do something different. So in 2008, I was 32, quit being a carpenter, moved to Utah, and went to film school. Yeah, it was pretty big. We had 3 kids, brand new baby, 2 little toddlers running around.
I mean, you must have just hated carpentry to be able to just like say, okay, I'm gonna just go to film. I'm gonna start over.
Yeah, I was not happy, and I could tell it was getting worse, and it was just hard. It was part of it was the family business side of it, and part of it was that we were in the Bay Area, and it was too populated and too hard of a place to live anymore, and expensive, and there was a lot of factors, I think. But my wife, I feel like, was the good sport. She was like, let's do it. So
But why
we
film
just,
school? Like, what of all the hundreds of things you could do? Like, was that a passion, or was that something you had thought of before, or was it just like a spin of the wheel and, oh, I guess I'm gonna go to film school?
it was a little bit of all of those, actually. I've always liked photography. I've always been into images. I didn't do a ton of it, but when I had a camera, I always really enjoyed it, everything I did. And like video cameras, I would always be exploring like cheesy blocking and doing stuff with people. And I did really like cameras. And then at the time, I was kind of getting really into hunting. I was watching a lot of hunting TV shows. This is kind of pre YouTube a little bit, but like, I mean, YouTube existed, but it wasn't like the thing it is now. So I was watching like kind of crappy, poorly made hunting shows on crappy network TV. And I was like, maybe I could make those. Maybe I could go make that. So that was kind of what was the initial impetus to start film school, was like,
Hmm.
when I'm done with film school, I can make some hunting movies and I can live my passion of hunting and of camera work and filmmaking. And so
Man.
it was partly that. I have never once worked on a hunting film.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, of those 31 titles, how many are hunting films?
Yeah, I never have done a single hunting thing. And I think the older I've gotten, the more I've realized that I do not want to connect those things really.
Mm.
I think I think I'd be willing to do hunting stuff if it was like in New Zealand and off season for Utah or for the West, or if it was
Yeah,
somewhere else where it was off
Yeah.
season, but I'm not going to give up August and September for anything if I don't have to. So I still do hunt, but I've really just kind of disconnected those two things, or never connected them, I guess. But yeah, so I went to UVU out here, and I only had to do school for about 2 years because I already had some schooling done. So I was able to graduate in less than 2 years, basically, and started working. Uh,
yeah.
Kind of lucked out, got to shoot this movie. I don't know if you guys have heard. It's called the Saratov Approach. Kind of freshly out of school, and all of a sudden I was a DP.
We have that's the first mention of Saratov Approach on this podcast.
I believe it.
That was your first movie, Jeremy?
That was the first feature I shot. Yeah,
Come on, dude. Like,
yeah.
Yeah,
that's pretty
yeah.
bonkers. Okay, so really quick before we leave the history that got you to, where you're a DP or a cinematographer, what advice do you give to the youngins now that are 17, 20, 22 years old, that, or even in 30, if they're like, should I do the same thing? Are you like, absolutely go all in, it was the best decision I ever made? Or are you warning them against it? Like, has your opinion evolved over time? Like, what advice are you giving these days about becoming a cinematographer?
That you could probably ask that question to me like once a week, and I'd have a very different answer depending on how much I'm working and what I've been working on. And to be totally honest, I'm super happy with with my choice. I've been super lucky. I've been all over the world. I've worked with cool people. I've had I call them once in a lifetime experiences, but for a while I was doing like corporate work and commercial work, and it was like, let's fly to Hong Kong and be a tourist for 2 weeks, or let's fly to, everywhere. It was just things that as a carpenter I never would have experienced. And so I think for me, I'd be all in. I think I would encourage people, if you want to be a cinematographer, shoot everything always. Like, just always have a camera in your hands. I think early on in my career I was pretty good at that, and I think I've gotten less good at that lately. And I think I think that it costs you something every time, because just the reps of like shooting stuff and looking at light and looking at frames and angles. And I think that would be my advice to young people who want to be cinematographers, is like, if you want to do this, freaking shoot everything, shoot your Disneyland vacation with your family, and just shoot and edit that stuff, so you know how that works. So you learn how to be an editor in your head. And um, so, I got to hold on that shot longer, or I got to do that. You learn all those things. But I think to me, just shoot. And I think YouTube and the internet has given us, I love spending hours on there watching how other people light and how other people do things. And, there are so many rad tools now. that, I went to film school. I don't regret film school, but I don't know if it's necessary for anybody. Nobody's ever asked for my diploma, but I do think I made some good friends at film school. So that was one good thing with school, was people that I still work with today. I connected with through that program.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, you based on a lot of these titles, there are a lot of your film school buddies that are involved in these.
Yeah, yeah. We had a good program too, and I think we were a very proactive group or class or whatever. Like
Yeah,
those
yeah.
2 years, we started a cinematography club. I started a cinematography club with like Stelios and uh, Kyle Rainey, Eric
Oh, nice.
Lawrence,
These are all working
Bradley Crane. Yeah,
DPs
a
now.
lot
Yeah,
of people who are still pretty relevant in Utah in the film industry.
Hmm.
We started this club basically so we could get other students to come help us do our projects, um, and then that club still exists. It's now called the Filmmakers Club, I think, but
Amazing.
kind of transformed. But
oh,
yeah,
oh, more inclusive then.
yeah, I know. I just wanted DP stuff, but whatever. So
Jeremy, one of the things that you did early on, and I do want to get into like tying this into pre-production and like when a DP, what kind of questions we go over in pre-pro. One of the things that you did early on was you were an owner of a camera, and it seems like a lot of DPs will ask me that, like, do you need to have a camera to do this, and what do you have a take on that? Do you have a consistent take on that?
yeah, I think again it would shift. If you ask me next week, it'd be different probably. But I love owning a camera that I like to shoot on because I'm so comfortable with my camera, and I know I own an Alexa Mini LF now, and I love it, and I love owning it because it's something like if I need to shoot something, or if I have a buddy that needs to
Yeah,
go shoot a fishing scene for his movie that he didn't get to shoot, we can go do it, and so stuff like that like is really nice. And then owner operator, when I get to use the camera at work, a lot of times it makes more money than I do as
yeah,
on a day rate or whatever. So to supplement, for the days you don't work or whatever, like it's pretty nice to own some equipment. It is definitely a double-edged sword, and equipment changes quickly. I think buying into an Ari, is a good choice. Whereas like,
yeah.
some other camera models that change constantly and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if it's as applicable, but
Well, we just lost our sponsorship with Red now, so thanks.
yeah, yeah. I didn't say their name though.
It could be Black Magic or
Oh, there it goes.
or
There goes that other
Yeah.
opportunity.
I think
Splendid.
Sony is usually a smart move though.
Yeah.
Like that FX6 or one of those cameras that'll just rent forever and work forever.
Yeah, I have a buddy that just sold his Venice and bought a couple of, I think, two FX6 packages.
Man.
Yeah, that's smart. I think those cameras, I don't work in that realm a ton, but when I do, like whenever I work in that like kind of docu realm, that's what we're ending up on now is
Yeah, yeah.
FX6s and maybe FX3s. But yeah, that camera, that's a good platform, I think too.
Okay, so as a DP, as an independent, I mean, our goal on this podcast is to demystify the independent film process, right? So as a DP, where do you come in an independent film? Like, where do you how early do you come on board? And what are some things that you could tell us about, from your perspective, just how to make the shoot go smoother, how to make this independent film world work for a pretty high end professional DP.
When do
Yeah,
you
I
come
think,
in, but when do you wish you were able to come in as well? I
yeah,
bet those are different
yeah.
answers.
A lot of times in the independent realm, sometimes you're working with greener directors, sometimes you're working with greener producers, sometimes you're working with no budget, and those things all limit how much prep you get. And I do think the more prep you get, the better. And I think well, the more prep being like good time you spend with the director. A few, some directors I've been working with recently, we will go director scout locations, and then we will spend hours at those locations, like lining up every scene and everything, and we will know. So on the day when we go to shoot those things, I know exactly where the sun's going to be. I know how much negative I need, you know what I mean? And we basically have a really good plan going into it. And I think the more of that you can do, the easier it is to make a pretty image and the less time consuming. I think every minute you lose in prep is time that costs you on the day you're shooting, and also on how good you can make the image look. And on some of those films, like an independent project, I've done some where I haven't even scouted with directors, and it's like you show up on the
Yeah.
day and you're just shooting, and you're like, man, if we could have just done this, 4 hours from now, this would be really easy to make look nice. And right now we're fighting really hard to make it look nice, and we're using a ton more gear than we should be using. And so I think if you're making independent movies and being a DP, you might have to work for free, or you might have to be willing to do that, um, if the goal is to make pretty images. Because I think if you're unwilling or unable to do that, then it's going to cost you something in production and on screen.
I think you bring up a good point, because as people consider, the different directors of photography, and we can look at reels and we can sit down and interview, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, I think, one, who you get along with. I mean, you have to just be able to really vibe with as a creative team, but then also kind of that willingness to just be all in. And there's that balance as a producer to be like, "Ugh, I just hate bringing on my DP so early that his rate lowers or raises, or that we can't afford it. And I don't want to beg for favors
Yeah,
before we even shoot, but at the same time, it's like, man, you can deliver amazing imagery if I can bring you in earlier.
yeah,
So we got to figure out how to do that.
yeah. And I think, yes, I think some directors will never work in that realm. Some directors don't care about that, and they want to get there on the day, and they want to block it on the day with their actors and make choices on the day. And as a DP, that's something that I I I don't know if suffer is the right word, but sometimes you work with directors that do that, and and you can't explain to them that their image is going to be not as nice, but also you do your best, and you know what I mean. You try your best, and you make your G&E team work harder usually, but like, uh, it's not always going to be that prep thing. But if you have the ability to do that, I would do that anytime, and I love doing that, and I'm willing to do that. I usually, if I'm not busy and I can do it, I'd rather put the energy in early and
But it
and
speaks
have
to the
that.
value of that time together because, like you said, you have one day on each location sometimes, or
Yeah,
one 2 hour block to film a 2 page scene. And if it's the wrong time of day, or if it's whatever, then you're fighting, and
yeah,
that doesn't lead to the right sort of result that you're aiming for. Whereas if you plan and if you have time, then it becomes easy, and you can really speak confidently to the AD that's scheduling the day, and to the director of, like, no, this is why we need to be looking this way and not this way to give you what you want, so that it's not bonking heads on the day to go, I can't give you what you want, and they're going, why not? It's just like
yeah. No,
things
Yeah.
happen, and it's terrible because this is the producer side coming in, and you're like, well, we got to shoot, like we have 4 more pages to go and it's noon. It's like, guys, we can't be doing this
yeah,
right now. But
yeah,
yeah, you give yourself a lot of gifts if you can spend some time in pre-production or development, even about the look, about the desired outcome, about what kind of equipment you're going to use and need, and what's the feel of the movie, being able to plan that out.
yeah. No, it's exactly right.
Jeremy, I want to get into some of the, I guess, we some of your work shows that you have had time to prepare. When I look, and maybe I'm just assuming too much, but when I look at, like, Aliens Abducted My Parents, and now I feel kind of left out, which was a smaller budget movie, but just looked absolutely incredible. And yet there were visual effects and amazing, wind and night shoots and spaceship and everything. And it was just, like, so visually such a journey and a trip. What was prep time for that, and how did it benefit the shoot?
Yeah, that was one. So Jake Van Wagner directed that. And that was one where we spent a lot of time in each location together, really nailing down where we were going to be and where we were going to look. And honestly, we by the end of that movie, we weren't talking to each other, you know. And yeah, we battled, and I think it's interesting being a cinematographer and knowing where you want light to be and where you want it to come from, and a director who really just wants good images and doesn't sometimes understand those like kind of just how that works physically and logistically and like but with Jake and I, and at that time, we really had kind of worked out like we want this to be per. We owned that movie. We produced that movie as well, and so
Yeah,
we prepped a lot on that movie because we could. We weren't making money on it. We weren't getting paid to be there and prep it, but we spent the energy and time to do it. And it's funny because that movie I don't know when we shot that 3 years ago maybe, and now I'm watching it. I was just recently cutting my reel and I'm like, man, I could make that look so much better now. I feel like I've grown so much since then that it's really funny to look back on. And Jake,
yeah,
yeah, Jake's very collaborative and he has good ideas for blocking and for camera movement, which makes my job easier and more fun because we get to like push each other around and say, well, what about this? Let's mimic a Spielberg thing here or this here and this there. And one of my
yeah,
favorite shots in that movie is there's a moment in the middle of the high school and Jake was like, let's push in with him as they move. And it's actually in my reel, but it was just an idea he had on the day. And it really pushed this. It's a very like projected camera move, which isn't normally what I like and what even he likes, I don't think, but it fit that moment really well. And I think about that a lot. And I'm like, that happened on the day, but we knew where we were shooting on the day. So we had time to like take a moment and say, what else could we do here to make this cool? And
yeah.
so,
Well, I mean, it shows and it works, and for that movie that ended up, getting recognition, significant recognition at Sundance, shows that it was worth it probably to put that work in, whether financially or whatever. It was creatively, it paid off.
yeah, yeah, I agree. And yeah, that movie was hard, but also very fun. We had a ton of fun on set and
I
the,
th- I,
yeah,
I think one of the things that you've taught me or realizing working with you is that the cinematographer, director of photography, is not just the camera guy. I mean, you are running the image department, and I think as we as independent filmmakers approach it with that mentality, then it enables the cinematographer to just perform that much better. You shot a movie for me, Out of Liberty, and this was a very micro budget western. Um, and I remember showing you the location, like scouting the location with you. We were shooting inside a barn. It was a very very small area, and you like you just kind of processed. You're like, oh, okay, well, if this is where you want to do it, let's figure out how to make it happen. And then you came over like weeks in advance of shooting and essentially built the the stage. You worked with the production designer to build the lights into the set. This is a 1840s western, and you're like, how are we going to light this interior jailhouse? And you like built it into the set. You had to have such a capacity of what the schedule was, what the shooting days were, and how we were going to deliver the shots in the amount of time that we had. And I think that's what sets a good DP apart. Is it's not just, hey, where am I going to put the camera? It's like, how am I going to deliver on what is needed on the image? It was awesome.
thank you. Yeah, that was cool. That was fun. I mean,
Yeah.
my dad came out and helped me build that little sliding ceiling, right? We had like 3 panels. We could roll them away, and lights were already up there. Skylar had that all pre-lit. Yeah, that was yeah. I mean,
It
it's the
was
only
math.
way we could have done that with that low ceiling that I could think of. You know,
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is like the fact that you were going out there and kind of think through that and you say, okay, here's what I know what Garrett wants as far as the look, but how are we going to execute that? And the DP solved it. So yeah, it's much more than just showing up for the camera. So for independent filmmakers, get with your DP as soon as you can and start going over to lookbooks
Yeah.
and all sorts of production design and everything.
Yeah. Shot
How
deck.
how involved are you with the other departments?
You know, I'm starting to want to be involved with like wardrobe and with production design a little bit. I think on our last movie we just finished in late September, I actually chose some wardrobe color, and kind of had to, I don't know if battle's the right word, but work with the, the wardrobe stylist who wasn't as into those things. But I was like, I think this is the right choice, and fought for that. And even with the production designer, we made choices together. Where it's like, every time we see these Nazis, we're going to put red in frame, more red in frame, and Nazi flags and whatever it is. But like, uh, I wish that more of my films I had had time and energy to do that, and I feel like I was so concerned with lighting and framing and camera movement that getting to a place where now I'm very comfortable with those things, the foundational things are just there now. It allows me to have the bandwidth to want to be a part of more than that and work with more than that. And I think, yeah, so I think for me that's kind of just starting. And now that I've had a taste of it, I want more and more input and collaboration. I don't necessarily want to dictate, but I want to work with people who are like, why are we putting this yellow dress on this lady? Why are we putting those colors back there? And I think, um, it's really going to make for better movies and better images as we get, as I get more and more time and energy to do that. So
Well,
that answer the question.
especially so you're not surprised on the day, like you know,
Yeah.
like putting together all those assets, the lookbook, like what is the color palette? That's usually coming from the production designer, but if you know the space as well, you could say, look, those things are not going to, it's not going to work the way you're thinking as you're drawing it out or as you're photoshopping things together. You could be like, look, in that room, I don't think you're going to get what you want out of this. And those conversations to be had in pre-production, to have the time to do it, so much better served than on the day, in the moment. Everybody's racing, everybody's rushing to try to get it done. You're like, okay, fine. And the last thing you want
Yeah.
to do on the day is to sacrifice something that you really care about, whether it's where the lights are, how it looks, where someone is on screen, whatever it is, from any department head or the director or the actor. Like, you don't want to have to make concessions. It's part of the creative process, but to be told we can't because we are out of time, or we can't because the camera doesn't fit back there, or the lens we're wearing isn't going to work because if we go wider we'll see the lights and then it's 20 minutes to reset and everything. Like, those things can be avoided if there's that time in prep. So I think what we're emphasizing is, like, the more time that you can spend in preparation with not just your cinematographer but your department heads is really time well served.
Yeah. Those director scouts, I think, are really one of the most important parts of pre-production, because you are meeting with the production designer. I mean, the wardrobe is not necessarily there, but you could come back to the office or whatever it is and say, hey, this was there, and we're going to try to do this, and show them stills of what we have. And yeah, I do think it's very important. Yeah, I don't know.
I was watching this show. It is kind of it's a insignificant show on whatever streaming it the other day, and there was a shot that the actor was wearing. It was intentionally, he was wearing a pair of a pair of pants that blended in with the wallpaper. So when he stood there, it appeared that he whatever didn't have legs or something. I can't remember what the gag was. It was a comedic gag, but in my mind I'm thinking, okay, they are coordinating that with wardrobe department and production design and DP because they've got to shoot it at the right angle. That's going
Yeah,
to work. So that when he
yeah,
steps out, we see it, the gag,
yeah,
and all of that had to be planned out. And it was just such a simple little gag. And I think, man, there's so much to be said for pre-production and planning.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you see it when you see on screen. You can tell when people have pre-produced something, and you can tell when you don't get to. And I think for me, a lot of times depth of field role plays into that quite a bit. Like if it's a movie where we've got to pre-produce it, I can shoot a much deeper stop and show off this cool set that this production designer's made. Whereas a lot of times on these lower budget things, you just got to shoot everything very shallow. So the background's out of focus and you can't tell how crappy it is or how mediocre it is. And I feel like on some of these Hallmark movies, we end up in those scenarios where it's not a Hallmark location, but we have to shoot there. So we're trying to put it all out of focus, which is a lot less interesting, I think. Uh, but it happens. It's a tool we
Yeah.
have.
Well, you're obviously doing it right because you have a number of Hallmark movies in your resume. One of the other things that stands out in your resume is the Benson Boon, Mr. Electric Blue music videos. Like you're shooting those now, which is
Yeah,
pretty significant, man.
it's fun. It's like the
What,
funnest stuff to shoot, honestly. It's really cool.
well, the video is amazing, and it looked like I don't know. But it looked like you just like showed up and had several different scenarios in mind, and you just kind of shot them super fun and made them work. So
Yeah, yeah. We did a day on a set, which was for all the interior stuff. And then we spent one full day on all the exterior stuff on that music video. And it was a scramble. It was a lot to shoot in one day, but we had a fun team. And Benson he's the coolest guy. I mean, he's the raddest dude. He was carrying grip equipment and C stands and bags for us. And he's just rad. And also he has a ton of charisma. So like he made it very easy. We
yeah,
did a lot of handheld. It was fun. Like I felt like he and I collaborated together on quite a bit of like the sign spinning stuff and the car washing stuff. And it was like a dance, and it was really fun and really rewarding. Matt Easton is directing those, and I really hope to work with Matt more and more because he's a director who has a really good vision, but also he's just cool and he's fun to be with and he's very collaborative. There's no like ego. It's like whatever's going to make this cooler, let's do that. Like he'll take an idea from a PA or from anybody, and so working with him is really fun. Working with Obviously I've worked with lots of directors, and it's really interesting. I think a big part of being a DP is filling voids in a director's ability, or like maybe it's not even in their ability, but in their space of the time, like the time that you're in and what you're doing. Sometimes as the DP, there's a little less pressure on you, and so you can see something that the director might be missing or lacking or whatever. And I think finding a way to broach that subject and always help a director. And I've had directors that have yelled at me when I've pitched ideas, but most directors, when you come to them with a good idea, they take it and they listen. But I do think that's a big part of my job. It's like there's a little bit of therapy involved, I think, and a little bit of like, look, you got all this pressure. You're thinking of a billion things, and I'm noticing these things. So how can we correct those together? And I think it's a fun part of my job, but also kind of a awkward part sometimes. So
because you've got to like push back or at least
yeah, yeah,
suggest another way.
yeah. You're kind
Well,
of hitting on ego a little bit. It's like I think they should be this here, and or this doesn't work here, and you're not noticing that, and so it's hard to broach those subjects, but it's a part of my job, I think. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
if your goal is to make better projects, so
yeah. I'm always glad when you do that, and yeah, it does. It helps. It helps the overall project
yeah.
or image be better. So Jeremy, what's something that an independent film director or producer, what do you wish that they knew about like your job or the job as a cinematographer that would make your job better or easier? Like what's something that
Now's
you
the
could say,
time
hey
to
guys,
air it all out,
do it that,
Jeremy.
just air it out.
Yeah,
Present company excluded, because present company excluded. You can't offend us.
yeah, I do think it is uh about scheduling a lot. I think it's really about like making the right choice for the light, whenever you possibly can. Like if you can choose to shoot, let's say you have 2 exterior scenes and an interior scene, and you show up and you're like, we're going to shoot this exterior scene here looking this direction in the morning, then we're going to go inside and we're going to shoot this scene in the middle of the day when it's crappy, and then in the evening we're going to go here and shoot this direction. And I think when directors and producers can listen to the DP and allow them to make those choices, it really helps everybody. And it helps everybody because there's less equipment getting unloaded from trucks. There's less people working hard. It probably leads to less injuries. It does all these things. And a lot of times you get fought on that stuff. And they're like, well, but it's easier if we're inside first, because then we can do this and we can do that. And it's like, that's fine. If you want to do that, then the image in the middle of the day is going to look like garbage, or we're going to have to work super hard to make it look decent. So I think it's allowing a DP to make some of those choices and understanding what it costs you when you don't listen to them, or when you can't. I mean, sometimes you can't, obviously. I did a Hallmark movie last year, a Halloween Hallmark movie with McLean Nelson, and we shot
All out the Halloween.
Haul Out the Halloween, and we shot it at that little French restaurant in Lacaille.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been to Lacaille and you walk out in the back of Lacaille, you're looking at Cottonwood Canyon. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's just beautiful. And for whatever reason, we showed up on the day and they flipped the schedule. So we were going to shoot this wedding outside on the grass in the evening, looking the complete wrong direction. Like, we weren't going to look at the cliffs and the rocks and the beautiful vineyard and stuff. And I was like, what? And it was like this scheduling thing where, putting people in wedding dresses, and it was hard for other people. And so the choice was made that they flipped the day, and it happened, the night before or morning of or something, probably day before on call sheets, but I had, prelims I didn't look at. But I was like, oh my gosh. And so we had to shoot this wedding basically completely flipped direction wise of what we wanted to shoot. We worked really hard. The grip and electric team worked really hard, but we did shoot a beautiful wedding, and we ended up looking the pretty way at the very last light when it was front lit, but nice and directional and beautiful. But it probably, I mean, we probably burnt 5,000 calories extra each because of flipping that schedule. Does that make sense? Like the G&E team and the camera team, and we were just scrambling. We were doing 20 buys. We were doing the biggest lights we had on the truck, all these things. Whereas if we had just shot it in the morning, it would have been 2 bounce boards, and you know what I mean? And
there wouldn't have been a scramble either way, right? Because we would have probably wrapped the scene a little bit earlier.
Yeah. It would have been a different battle for sure. But I think, I don't know. It's just crazy what we had to do because of that scheduling conflict. So I think whenever you can help a DP, let them be a part of the schedule. That makes sense.
And it's worth it. It really is, because then your image is going to be better. And I think you get more for your buck there.
Yeah.
I know that anytime when I'm walking through and planning shots now, there's often a Jeremy Prusso in the back of my head saying like, okay, where's the sun? Like, hey, what time are you going to shoot this? And sure, we're going to do it. I love that.
The very first movie that I line produced, we sat in these meetings, and it was me and the director and the first AD and the cinematographer, and we'd go through the schedule, and it's like seared in my brain that like there's only so much you can ask of the crew, and that's who the first AD and the cinematographer are representing, is like the amount of people that it takes to pull off a shot. It's not 2 people. It's not one individual. It's not just the director decides it and then we shoot it. There's dozens of people that have to scramble and move, especially if you change things the night before. And I remember sitting there with the DP of Amy's movie, Bobby Bukowski, and he just sat there and he's looking at, a list of like 20 setups or something. I don't remember what the exact thing was, but he's like, if each one of these takes an hour, that's 20 hours. If each one takes a half hour, it's 10 hours. Like, how long do you expect this thing to take? Because then you have to turn around and then you have to see the other person. And then it ended up cutting that day down by like half of the setups because of his input. And then it fell on me to go, okay, well, I got to work with the first AD to make sure that this gets into the schedule somewhere, because we can't just shave half a day of filming off of a 18-day shoot. But it's now seared in my brain that like you can't just go in your corner with your laptop and say, here's how we're going to make the movie by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It requires all of these brilliant, experienced minds to come and bring their experience to it and say, well, look, if you want this, then you got to do this. And then, yes, there are times where it's at conflict with someone else who's saying, well, we can't do that because we can't get into the building until this time or whatever. But you at least know, and you're not finding out the morning of, the night before, the day of, in the moment. Oh, we can't do it that way.
Totally. Yeah. The flexibility is important too, right? Like you're always changing stuff for
Yeah.
That's definitely important too. Being able to roll with that and make new choices and collaborate and make those choices together, which can be sometimes the hard part, I think.
Yeah. Despite everything else, you still got to be easy to work with.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're all friends in the same pitch, making a movie. Jeremy, where can we find? I mean, you said you updated your reel, which I've seen, and it's incredible. Where can people find you? Should they want to have you give them advice on their film or work on their film even?
Yeah. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, kind of. I'm not very often. LinkedIn, it's just Jeremy Prusso or Little Beard Productions. Either one of those tags can find you, I think, on Instagram. And then
was Little Beard, did you come up with that about 40 years ago? Because if I'm looking at your beard, it's not named after your beard.
I definitely had a much redder, much shorter beard when I did come up with that production company.
It's awesome. I have pictures of that little beard.
Yeah.
I think that's when we all met, was around the time you started that thing. I'm thinking back to probably 2008, 2010, somewhere in there is where we crossed paths. And like, the beard's not so little anymore.
I know. It's more and more Santa every day.
Love it.
More Santa. It's that time of year. Okay, man. Well, it's so great to check in and chat with you. And I cannot wait to see what else you're working on, and I hope to get you on a set again here pretty soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, man. Thank you both. Great to have you on this.
Thanks, guys.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. If you are enjoying Truly Independent, please share and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the journey. Today's episode was edited by Michael Bradford and produced by 3 Coin Productions. This season of Truly Independent is supported by the Help Them See Foundation. Help Them See is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting feature films that inspire faith, hope, and connection. By partnering with filmmakers, the Help Them See Foundation brings meaningful stories to life and shares them with audiences worldwide, making a lasting cultural impact through the power of cinema. Learn more and discover how you can be part of the movement by visiting helpthemseefoundation.org.